Welcome back to Les Schwab Tire Center's Outdoor GPS, presented by Fisherman's Marine and Outdoor. Now, it's real time.
Well, we're going to get real time with David Johnson, owner-operator David Johnson's Guide Service. Dave, it's really good to see you, man.
Thanks for having me.
Safe
again.
travels, too. You just
Thanks.
got back from Christmas Island.
Yes.
Now, you've been there before.
This is my fourth trip there.
What's a professional Northwest fishing guide do on vacation?
You go fishing
He
where it's
goes
warm.
fishing. Okay, that's why he's a guide and I'm not. So tell us about Christmas Island. You can show. We've got some photos to show. Tell us about that.
It's 1,400 miles south of Hawaii,
Right.
less than 200 miles north of the equator.
Okay, so
And
way down there.
So you fly to Honolulu, spend the night or a couple days like we did.
Yeah.
Then 3.5 hour flight down to the island.
Mm-hmm.
It's remote. It's the world's largest coral atoll.
Wow.
And it's the 12th most remote island in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just beautiful, just the colors, the water, and the fish.
Yeah,
and
well,
some beautiful fish.
I mean,
too.
some beautiful fish. I know that
we did
Ryan's
tuna.
shown some photos to you. There's even a video as well. I know that you had said that the weather was not quite what you were hoping for.
A lot of wind.
What do you
yes.
typically go there to chase?
Trevally, and then we usually do a day or two in the ocean where we'll catch tuna and wahoo.
Mm-hmm.
And this time we fished 4 days in the ocean because we're going out on the leeward side of the island to get out of the wind.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Now, giant trevallies. Are you surface fishing
There's
those?
a giant trevally there. Yeah.
I've seen many a video where they're popping them, on the surface or whatever else.
We pop them, we live bait them, we troll them. This one was caught trolling.
Yeah, that's.
They pull flat out harder than any fish in the world.
Wow.
That I've ever
It looks
seen
like
or caught.
it looks like something fun. Bucket list, everyone.
Yes.
Bucket list for you might even be out doing some spring Chinook fishing with David Johnson, and that's what we're going to talk about right now. Those fish are awesome. They're probably delicious too, by the way.
I don't know about the trolling. We let those go. But,
Yes, I've heard that before
but
too.
we literally ate an entire tuna one day while we were out fishing.
Oh my God, that's awesome! And I'm not a big bait fan. I call sushi bait, but I would eat that in a moment's notice.
So fresh.
Yeah, I mean that's just phenomenal. All right, here's your video that we got from you with some dolphins.
Yeah. There's a bunch of dolphins out there. You'd see them in the distance. They'd see us, and then they'd head over and they'd play off the front of the boat, ride the wake, and then they'd get bored and leave.
That's cool. So they're kind of tuned into what you guys are doing out there.
Yeah.
Very cool. That's what you get when you get to travel out of the Northwest, everyone. You get to go fishing in just prettier places and probably get pulled on a few more times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. It sounds like fun. All right, so the springers. It's the middle of March. And I know that for you as a professional, you're not alone as one of our top guides, of course, here in the Northwest. You're kind of a little bit later. You're not a March guy. You're not like running trips with dudes in March. You're waiting until April. How late do you wait? And for folks like myself that are just the average 5%, I'll admit it, okay? We're going to start now.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to get our days in, right? Put our time on the water, get ourselves prepared for when fishing does get good. What about yourself? What are you waiting on?
Well, what I've done is in the past, I've tried to go an entire season without ever getting skunked.
Right.
Part of that is don't start too early.
Okay. He means getting fish every trip, everyone.
Every trip, yes.
Yeah.
And I pulled it off a lot of years.
Sure.
But, so I usually don't start on the Columbia until the 1st of April or maybe a couple days earlier than that, depending if it's a good tide.
Sure.
Back in, 18 years ago when the runs were twice as big,
right.
I fished a lot in March.
Sure,
because we could get into a lot of fish.
Yeah.
So these days, kind of right around the 1st of April is when I'll start for the Columbia. The Willamette, I like to start around the 12th and the 15th. I usually kind of start April 15, and maybe I'll backfill it a little bit if the water conditions are fishable, but kind of that mid-April.
Gotcha.
And of course, at the peak of it's when those dogwoods are out.
Right. You mentioned that this morning that you were seeing.
I was pretty sure I could hear the swallows yesterday when I was out on the river, and then this morning when I was out here in the parking lot. And usually that's kind of everybody looks at the dogwoods, but the willows kind of tell you, it's getting more spray, or not willows, the swallows. Sure. And, that's when they're in the Columbia.
They're starting to ramp up.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that even while you were gone, you had to have gotten reports that there was a fish here, fish there in the Willamette. Yeah. Columbia, same thing, just sporadic. Those conditions aren't prime by any means because of some of the things that we've already mentioned. but certainly you can catch them, and you're not going to catch them if you're at home sitting on the couch. It's just that simple. So for some of the folks that are like me that are actually going to start now, right? We're going to spend our days, when we can, to get out there and chase them. You brought in some plugs for a reason.
Yeah.
Is that something that you would say is a confidence thing early in the season for yourself, or is it just situationally based where you're going to be using plugs early on?
Both.
Both?
Yeah. I mean, usually you got higher water, so we're fishing closer to the bank. Fish are following the bank. And so I use a lot of plugs.
Gotcha.
And if I fish in the Columbia, usually I like to fish springers on anchor.
Okay, gotcha. I don't know if I've ever seen you drop a hook before. Well, that's probably because he hides where he's dropping it. You can see right there in his face. He's like, uh-oh, uh-oh, uh-oh. So is that generally low river, way down lower in the river that you like to spend your time?
Yeah.
Because he does live over on the coast, so I can see how that might be an advantage.
Advantage on getting away from the crowds, too.
Sure.
Is getting away from the sea lions. Because they literally will, they know the boats are sitting there, hooking fish, bringing the fish up so they can steal them.
Right.
If you're the only boat, a lot of times I'll see the sea lions
just cruising on the outside.
Cruising up the middle of the river, not paying attention to you, because there's not a concentration of boats.
What color is your new boat going to be? Just kidding. Don't answer that. We only get a couple of days. I mean, I say we because I get it, well, you know what I'm referring to. Once they know, it's sometimes hard to get away. Okay, so anchor fishing it early on in the season. We've had high water in the past, and we've talked about it here on GPS 100 times. It seems like the higher the water is, the closer to the bank you want to be. Remember a handful of years ago when the water was so high in March, we were fishing in the trees, right? That's not going to happen this year. No. We just don't have the snowpack. We don't have the conditions for that to happen.
It's a good level, though. I look at it here at the graph. That's a damn prime level. 7.5 at Vancouver.
Yeah,
that's a pretty good level.
It is. The only, like I mentioned, would you agree with me saying anywhere that I'm wrong? Jump in. I mean, there's so many smelt that are out there that deters the fish. That does not help you be successful.
No, you're fishing a snowstorm, a bait. All that. So
you know it's bad. Last year was one of those years where you'd be trolling along, fish flashing a herring, and you wouldn't even know it. You'd reel up your gear to check, and you'd have a smelt hung on one of your hooks. I mean, it's just, it's not, it doesn't help in any way.
If I was going to go out this weekend or next week or whatever, I'd fish above the cowlets.
Yeah, get up as high, get away from as much as you can.
Davis bar and all that kind of thing, and and at that level, 7.5. That's